So welcome back. So we were talking about unhealthy and effective coping skills. So just another thing about the example we were talking about. So even though I avoid my stress is gone for that moment because I didn't take my car into the mechanic, which was my stressor. I in the moment my stress is gone, but in the long term, so like what if my car breaks down, or so it's like I still have to go to the mechanic, and therefore I don't have a car to turn around to avoid it. So that's like an example. So in cases like these, it might be helpful to get support of help if you build more healthy and effective coping skills. So there's some cases where it's just kind of management of your emotions. And maybe like talking to a therapist or talking to someone to get support and help with it is okay. But if it's like if it's harmful to your health, so like eating, drinking, or even um, engaging in self-harm behaviors, then definitely you need to see someone. So we've been focusing on Jeff Riggenbach on his Toolbox. So he also has a little bit more about autopilot unhealthy coping skills. So autopilot. So it's kind of like the things where we kind of go to even like without us really noticing. So autopilot is unhealthy coping skills used to cope with stress, generally, and it generally fits into one of a couple categories. So many people choose skills designed to avoid that stress-inducing trigger, so they use avoiding techniques. So people using strategies may avoid feeling stress, but in their efforts, they create further problems for themselves. So examples could be workaholism, even like or the avoidance, like that example with the car that we just talked about. So another way is to where others push themselves to do stressful things, but then in an attempt to soothe themselves may engage in behaviors. So example could be smoking pot, having careless sex, even serial dating. So there's overeating, shopping, like over shopping. So those are some examples. So that's more about what Jeff Riggenbach has to say about unhealthy coping skills. So we're going to talk about consequences and unhealthy coping skills. So I know consequences. So we've kind of heard about like when we were children, how if we did something bad, we would get a consequence, such as like a timeout, or maybe get something taken away, or even some people maybe got like a spank when they were younger. So those are example of consequences when we were little. So as we get older, there's still some behaviors we engage in that can still have consequences. So what's the definition of consequence? So this is more a behavior standpoint for children, but it does still apply for adults as well. So consequence. So the consequence is an action or a response that follows the behavior. So consequence, which is very similar to a reinforcement. So meaning in Skinner theory's operant conditioning. So meaning like that consequence is reinforcing the behavior. So is an outcome that reinforces a child's behavior or seeks to modify the behavior. So while the consequence is not necessarily a punishment, disciplinary action, it can be. So like let's say a child is, or like here I'll use an adult. So like let's say like how if someone's gets frustrated and then they start punching their friend. So the punishment or the consequence could be that friend will not talk to them anymore, does not want to be friends with them because they hurt them. So that's like the consequence of an action. Or even like if someone lies to a friend, like let's say you lied to your friend, and your friends, the consequence is you lost that friend's trust. Are examples of consequences for like adults. So I'll stop there and I'll continue on more about consequences in the next part.